Okay guys, I'm going to show a lesson on using shape keys and then how I'm going to take advantage of Blender's Sculpt Mode together with shape keys. Okay, shape keys is pretty easy to understand. You're basically creating uh, a reconfiguration of vertex points and then creating a slider that will morph between those two shapes. So check it out. I'm over in the object data menu here. It looks like an upside down triangle, and I'm going to create another shape key. I'll just rename this spike head, and in edit mode all I'm going to do is just grab a vertex point and move it. Okay, don't subdivide, don't extrude. You got to keep the vertex count exactly the same for shape keys to work. Okay, so all I did was move a vertex. I didn't increase or decrease the number of vertices. I'll now switch back to object mode, and it appears like the model went back to normal, but there's a value slider here. Okay, check out the value slider. I'm going to now adjust it, and now I can morph between those two shapes. Okay, that's how you use shape keys, and just want to show how you can use shape keys when you've got duplicated models. Okay, check this out. Okay, here's another file. Let me just quickly change the view of all these three other models. Okay, if you look up in my outliner, I've got the original model right here. It's called number 1. And then model number 2, 3, and 4. I just changed the view display. And I wanted to mention that you can adjust these displays, the viewport displays, by going to the object properties. It looks like a square. And then down in the viewport display menu, okay, check it out. All I'm going to do is use the pop-up menu and switch from display as wire to solid. And you can see clearly that I've manipulated the vertex points so that this head has a smiley face. Let's rename that right away. Number 2 head smile. Number 3 head, can't even tell what it is. Well, let me go back down over to viewport display, and I'm going to display as solid again. Okay, and what I did was I manipulated the vertex points so that the eyes are kind of squinting. So let's rename that squint. Just change the name in the outliner. Number 4 head is displaying the name, and that's just a checkbox. Just an option there you can turn on or off. It might be useful sometimes. It's currently showing a box around it, and that's just displaying the texture space. Not really sure what that's for, but I can disable that. And then of course I'm going to display a solid again. And here what I've done is I've moved the vertex points of the eyes to make it look like the eyes are really big. So I'll rename that big eyes. What do you do if you've got multiple heads that all have they all share the same exact vertex count? Okay, I didn't extrude, I didn't insert edge loops, so same number of vertex points. It's just the positions are a little bit different for each of the expressions. Well, if you select all of them and then select the original last, okay, so I'm holding shift and then I select that original last, you can tell that the main head is selected last because it's got a light orange outline around it. Okay, just remember, light orange, light means last. Light means the lighter orange outline means that you've selected it last. That's what I do to kind of remember it. And then over in my object data menu, let me collapse some of these other menus that we're not using where we only care about shape keys. You got to have a basis shape key, and then I'm creating I want to create some more, but the way to do it is after I've selected all of those 3 other heads, hold shift and select the main head last. I'm going to use this drop down menu and choose join as shapes. Look, instantly it uses the names from the outliner, and of course you can just hide these other heads. They're not even necessary to look at right now. With this main head selected, you'll see that there's now a value slider, and I can make the character smile with the slider. don't forget you can actually combine shape keys. So I increase the value of the smile. I can increase increase the squint as well. And this might be kind of weird, but you can also make the eyes bigger even though he's squinting. Okay, so that's just a quick lesson on how to, you don't have to actually make shape keys on the original head, meaning you don't have to actually go into edit mode. You don't have to actually make a new shape key, go into edit mode and move stuff around. You can also just have duplicated heads, select them all, and then use the drop down menu to join the shapes. Okay. Here's another exercise. I'm going to use Sculpt Mode to just quickly put some eye sockets into this head. All right. I'm just switching over to the Sculpting tab. And I'll be adjusting the size of my brush to get a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to use the grab brush. And I just want to show you guys something here. As I use this grab brush, look at how I'm moving. I'm not just moving one vertex point at a time. I'm actually moving like whole groups of vertex points, and it's really based on the size of my brush, which I'm controlling with F. Okay, nothing really hard to understand there. I'm not actually changing the vertex count at all. Okay, so Sculpt Mode can be very useful because it's like it's another way of moving individual vertex points, and by adjusting my brush size, making it really big, I can kind of move a lot of vertex points at once, and this could be really useful for making shape keys. For example, I could hit Shift D, create a duplicate, and I'm just going to do this really quickly here. Let's hide these other two heads. Let's say I switched over to Sculpt Mode. I'm going to increase my brush size with F, tap the letter G for grab. Let's make sure I'm enabling X symmetry. Okay, look, I'm making a quick smile. Let's rename this head Smile. Okay, back over to my default setting. Here's another head. Let's hide the smile. Go back to sculpting mode. Okay, I'll just make that, let's turn on symmetry, it's on. Okay, I'm just using the grab brush again, just using the grab brush, so I'm not really adding any new geometry. Okay, made the character look kind of angry. Gotta raise the nose a little bit. Okay, that's all, I'm done. I'm gonna rename this head Angry. Alright, let's turn on these other heads. And of course, select, hold shift. That's the last one, so it's got the light orange outline. Use that drop down menu, join as shapes, boom. Got some shape keys in here with sliders where I can adjust the value. And just wanted to show how I use Sculpt Mode to help me create these facial expressions for shape keys. You don't have to use Sculpt Mode to create awesome characters. I mean, we will, but if you don't check Dyntopo, you will not end up, you won't change your vertex count, okay? All right, back over to another exercise here. I'm gonna switch over to Sculpt Mode. And of course, just like before, I'm using the letter G, and I'm just gonna adjust this model a little bit. Okay, it looks good. Okay, just want to show how I'm not changing the vertex count. But eventually, if we do want to start sculpting, we want to put some detail on here, I will have to check dynamic topology, Dyntopo, just giving me a warning. Okay, I'm just gonna click OK and ignore the warning. And this is, you know, most sculpting tutorials don't show you. I don't see people talking about this too much, but most sculpting tutorials want you to lower the detail size to get more detail. Well, I'm gonna recommend going up to detail of 20. It's gonna still add subdivisions, but not as much. And I think this is important because if you add too much detail too fast, that can cause you to focus too much on the detail. Okay, look, I can't get too much detail, and I'm not even gonna make a mouth right now. I just want to make some eye sockets. Okay, let me activate clay strips here. Give it like an eyebrow. Okay, Shift F will increase the brush strength. Okay, don't forget, holding down Shift will smooth, but look at how quick I just eradicated all of that detail. Okay, let me hit Control Z to undo. If you hold down Shift while using another brush like clay strips, you know, it'll just smooth things out. How do you make the smooth less strong? Well, if you tap the letter S to go to the smooth brush, there's my strength of my smooth brush. I'm gonna lower that down to like I'm lowering it it's pretty small. It's down to 0.09. And when I switch back to my clay strips brush, I could continue sculpting. Okay, I'm just using this clay strips brush, and when I want to smooth, I'll hold down Shift, and look how much weaker it is. Okay, this is gonna allow me to smooth a little slower. It's not as sensitive, and that's gonna give me more control. Because I hit S earlier and I lowered the strength of the smooth brush. This is a really important detail when it comes to sculpting, because it's showing that Blender retains the strength of every individual brush. If I've got the clay strips brush at a strength of 100%, but maybe I go to the grab brush and lower that to like 0.7, when I switch back to clay strips, it doesn't, you know, it's reverting back to the strength that I was last using the clay strips brush at. Okay, that's all I'm going to do right now. Maybe I'll smooth a little bit. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for this exercise. And I'm going to switch back to layout. Okay, looks good. I feel like there's a little bit of an indentation right here, so let me just bump that back out. Smooth it a little more. Okay, I like that. Here's another exercise. I'm immediately going to hit Shift A, and I'm going to add a UV sphere, rotating that 90 degrees. Just want to create an eyeball. Okay, I'm flattening out the front of that eyeball. I just tapped SY0, translated those faces inward a little bit. That's my eyeball. Okay, it'll be easier to see this eyeball if I add a shader to this head. Let me just use a diffuse shader, and in the viewport display, there we go. That's good enough. Okay, this eyeball is a little too big. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, that's good enough for now. All right. I want to put another eyeball on the other side perfectly mirrored. So I'll right click and change the origin to the 3D cursor. There it is now. You can see that the origin is at the cursor, and the cursor is at 0, 0, 0 on the grid. So if I add a mirror modifier there, it's going to be. check this out. I'm going to hit Shift D and just quickly duplicate this head. I'm going to rename this blink. And I'm just going to jump into Sculpt Mode. And I'll hit the letter G. Dyntopo is off, so I won't be adding any subdivisions. I'm using the grab brush. And I'm just going to lower this eyebrow here. Okay, you guys can tell what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make another shape key for this brow to come down like this character is blinking, okay? Now, how do I know if it's really going to cover up the eyeball? It'd be better if I could just move this into place. Okay, so if you use Shift S, you get a pie menu, and I'm going to put my cursor to where this main head is. Then I'm going to select the duplicated head. Just renaming that main head. Let's hide that guy. Okay, so the cursor is now where that main head was. Then I use Shift S again, get the pie menu, and I'm going to move this selection to the cursor. Now it's in the exact same spot where the eyes were. Let's go back to sculpting. And now I'll just carefully keep grabbing these vertex points and pulling downward to create a blink. Okay, this is kind of messing up the geometry a lot, and I'm not trying to make a perfect model right now. What I'm trying to do is just combine some different techniques that I showed you into a lesson to try to help see how you combine different techniques, and it also should reinforce these ideas. When you see someone combine different techniques into a practical exercise, I think it really solidifies the lesson. Okay, probably not strong enough. Let's bring it down. Okay, almost done here. Kind of lowered some of those vertex points too much, so let me just raise these up one at a time. This is going to be kind of a slow process. Almost there, guys. Just going to increase my brush size. There we go. Just trying to cover up this eye as much as possible. Okay, that's good enough for now. Maybe I'll use Shift and just smooth that out a little bit. Some of these vertex points should probably be lowered. Okay, almost there. Just trying to close this gap. Okay. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. Switching back to my layout, there's the blink head. Okay, I'm selecting the main head. Let's hide it. Hold Shift. No, I'm sorry. I'm selecting the blink head. Hide it. The blink head is still selected. Hold Shift and get the original head last. Go over to Object Data, create a basis shape key. Use the drop down and choose Jointed Shapes. Oh no, it looks like there's a different vertex count. That's really weird. I thought I duplicated it. Okay. Well, anyway, that's kind of embarrassing. Didn't work. I must have extruded a little bit. Okay, let me just do a quick check here. I've got 858 verts. Maybe I accidentally deleted some. 858 vertex points, yeah. Okay, so there's something going on here. It says it's the same. Let's try that again. Shift, select, join as shapes. Okay, it worked the second time, so I don't know. I probably made a mistake in my selection process. I probably had the eyeball selected by accident too. And now finally, when I slide that value, I got some animation going on. I could keyframe that value and create a blink. Okay guys, just a quick recap. I started off by just showing how to create shape keys for some morphing, linear morphing animation, generally used for facial expressions. Then I just showed some simple sculpting tools with and without dynamic topology turned on. Okay? All right, go ahead and practice that.